for posterity for others who weren't able to make it. Welcome to UX and ATX. This is remote tools and how to use them. I'm going to assume that you guys are all interested in remote tools, but at least have some knowledge of some of them if you're able to join us on Zoom tonight. So we're going to try to do some interesting things. Let me pull up my cheat sheet of what we're going to be talking about, because otherwise I'll get fussed at. Sorry. All right, so we would love to start with some introductions. Since there's only 36 of us, we can talk really briefly, say who you are and why you're here. Please feel free to use the chat to share your LinkedIn profile and ask questions, but I especially think that if you can share your profile link, that's a great way to get more people to connect with you, and it's a great way to increase your network, especially if you're looking for a job or wanting to just meet other people. And then I'll tell you what the agenda is for tonight. After our intros and all of that, we're going to kind of have a presentation part where we're going to talk about the different tools that myself, Amanda White, and Andrina Dyer use in our day-to-day, and the ones that we've had experience in using throughout all of the 5 phases of design thinking. And then hopefully that won't take too long. We want to keep that short so I don't bore you to tears. But then we'll break out into kind of workshop-y type things. And what we'll do is we'll break you into 3 rooms, and then the 3 of us are going to circle around and do an activity with you so you kind of get some hands-on with these. Does that sound good? Thumbs up if you like it, thumbs down if you're not sure. Okay, cool. Awesome. Well, great. So glad you guys are all here. Sorry I didn't get to everybody. I'm glad you're sharing your LinkedIn profile links. Feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn and just let me know that you met me at this meetup. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. Let me let Andrina get started. She's going to do the first part of our presentation. And hey, would you mind also mentioning the Facebook group, Andrina? I think you're muted still, sorry.
Sorry, I was just going on and on. So we decided to create a Facebook group just to be able to have a platform for posting the videos and have a private group to also communicate, and maybe you guys want to share some of your work and get opinion about certain decisions in design, and we can all share and be respectful to each other and kind of practice the whole design feedback that we all need to be good at. So it's UX and ATX, and you just have to go there and just have 1 or 2 questions to answer. You have to be part of the UX and ATX meetup group member to be able to be in that group as well.
Yeah, and we still have the Slack group, so stay on Slack and join Facebook. Why not do both?
Yeah. you just have more access to things on Facebook that Meetup doesn't have and Slack doesn't have, so we kind of need all of them.
All right, so we're going to start by talking through the tools that we use in each of the phases of design thinking. And the first one to start us off is research. And Andrina is going to walk us through the tools that she uses. And are you able to share your screen, Andrina, if you need to?
I should. I'm going to try right now. See if it lets me. Screen 1. Okay, is that working?
Yep, looks good.
All right, so yeah, basically we just wanted to have a little overview of some of the phases of design process and some of the tools that we're using. So I wanted to go over some remote research tools that I have used for example, product persona, user persona, excuse me, creation. I've used flow map. I'm sure a lot of you know some of it or even all of them. So I just want to give you a little blurb about what they're about. So flow map, I've used it a lot. They call themselves the full stack UX platform. It allows you to organize and collaborate on their platform directly. They're customizable templates of user flows, sitemaps, and recently they're even adding a design review feature as well. So that'll be out soon. It has a very cool integration with Slack. So you get notified there when there are changes made to your product. There's a free plan, but they also offer a 14-day trial with premium features. For affinity diagram, empathy mapping, and user journey, and many, many other things, I've used Miro, and we'll be using that tonight for our activities. So if you have a Miro account, log in, and if not, try to create one. It's just 2 steps to create an account, so that once I share the link, you guys can jump on it right away. So Miro goes beyond UX. You find boards for ice-breaking activities, agile retro, daily stand-ups, Gantt charts, SWOT analysis, you name it. It has an unlimited number of collaborators at one time on a board, but it has a limited number of projects that you can have as a member. But it also opens a paid plan, so you can have unlimited everything. When it comes to user interviews, rep.com offers closed captioning, subtitles, and transcription services, and even translation. So this is all paid, all paid up plans, but they're very upfront and transparent about it. So the plans that they give you and then you sign up for is what you pay at the end of the day. So that's very important for a software like this. For storyboarding, I usually use a storyboard.com. It's a very intuitive drag and drop background, scenes, people, animals, devices, text, you name it. And this is all free, but they also have 3 paid plans. A very new service that I have used only once is the survey. It's by SurveyMonkey, and it's called getfeedback.com. And this gives you access to unlimited number of surveys and user testing. So you can use this before and after, because it allows you also to do usability testing. And they only give you a free 14-day trial. And lastly, for collaboration and brainstorming, this is mostly what my students use, Envision Freehand, because obviously Envision allows you to do prototyping, but once they release Freehand, now they're able to have developers, stakeholders, designers, all collaborating together in ideation, inspiration, and showing each other's visions that sometimes cannot be well explained just with words. And the very good thing about those is that it's free forever. And with that, I'm going to hand it over to Cindy, and she's going to go over the next step. Let me just stop sharing.
Cool. But before I do that, do you guys have any questions about any of the tools that Andrina just mentioned? Y'all are all good. Everybody knows it. You totally.
Yeah, just make sure that you go check them out. They're really useful.
I have a quick question.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just can you explain what made you choose these tools? I think that's what we're coming here for tonight. It's like there's so many tools out there. So you did explain for some of them why you chose one. Is it generally more because of like whatever ecosystem you're in, or if you know like what makes you choose a tool over another? What do you look for?
That's such a great question.
Well, it's mainly due to pricing, mostly. And so there is like a balance, right, between, because some of them are paid. And so I have found that sometimes you have to pay to have quality and accessibility. So these are the ones that have the right balance between the two. It's the right pricing and you get the right result in a good product that you're able to showcase and gather data really effectively.
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, so I was replying and then I realized I mute myself. So thank you, Andrini.
Yeah, absolutely. Are there any other questions about any of those tools, or before I move on? I just want to make sure. Okay, cool. Then I'm going to share my screen. I get to talk about the definition phase. In the definition phase, that's when we're taking a lot of the data that you gathered in the research phase, and that's when you're pulling it all together and making sense of it. I'm going to admit to you that I started using these tools probably pretty recently. And a lot of the tools that I came into contact with, it's because I think Karimi put it really well, the ecosystem that I'm in. So a lot of the choices that I made was based on some sort, maybe some person introducing it to me, or maybe through my work I was able to use it, or maybe just by being introduced to other designers that were showing me. And I think especially the one when I'm hearing other people talk about it, because I'm in so many different Slack groups, that when someone else is using it, that goes a long way for me. In terms of knowing that it must be good if someone's raving about how great this tool is. I come from the world of doing Photoshop and Balsamic, so moving into the collaborative design space was very new for me. So one of my newest class is actually a technology intensive where we're getting to explore these tools, and I'm really excited about it, but a lot of them I've already come into contact with. On the definition side, this is whimsical that you can see here. I just started using this and I really like it. Right now, I haven't gone deep into seeing if I want to use this tool, like, you know, and pay for it, but I get 4 free boards. And the nice thing about it, let's see if I can zoom in a way that you can see a little bit. The nice thing about it is that you can create all these kind of different templates. So this is an example of a concept map that I was working on. I really just wanted a mind map kind of tool. And I found it really easy to use. I'll give you, I can show you here what I put together. Let me show you how I would, well, let's see if I can do it with my trackpad. If I wanted to make a new one down here, I can click on this little add mind map, and I found it super simple, and it just kind of adds it. And then it didn't take very long for me to figure out what I wanted to do with it. I can add a connector, and I can say, like, you know, first connector. And the thing I like about this is that it was just super easy to get started with. And you can do all kinds of like flow charts and flow diagrams. And I can share this with my peers. That's what I really like about this. So I didn't feel like this was something that was going to take me a while to get up to speed with. And that's pretty much the biggest hurdle for me, is to get up to speed with a tool. It needs to be fast. I don't have time, nor do I have budget usually when I'm working on client projects, to learn something new. So the fact that this was really fast to get going on was really beneficial for me. I was going to show you also, let me zoom out a little bit. I was going to show you also Miro. This is a Miro board that I created with an affinity. This is an affinity diagram that I worked on for a personal project. And what I did was I had all these different, you know, I had 6 participants that I had interviewed, and I had notes from each of them. And then I just started moving you know, post-it notes around. I think it doesn't let me edit it anymore. Oh yeah, it does. I can move these things if I want. But I made this entire, you know, affinity diagram, and I'd never done that before. I'd always done just post-it notes. And I found, I was like, this is great. I can share this with people. It looks nicer. I can zoom in on it. It's a lot better than just taking a photo. If, you know, there's something to be said though about post-it notes and pens and Sharpies and being able to do that, but when I'm not able to, like if I have to, you know, digitize what I worked on, I really like having this option for Miro. And you can do so much with Miro. Like Andrina said, it gives you 3 free boards, and then you have to pay for it. And I debated back and forth between Miro and Mural, and ultimately I chose Mural, and I want to show you why. So I found Mural to be just probably the best, and I had never worked with it before January. In January, I had an instructor who kind of works at a big enterprise organization who had created this mural board for us to work in. And I was like, what is this? It was crazy. But the more I worked with it in that class, and then my second class also had it, I absolutely love it for collaboration. It is so great. And let me show you. These are all boards. I use it for some of my students as well, like when we do class activities. But here's let's see, what would be a safe activity? Well, I have one pulled up. Let me go back. Here's an affinity or an empathy map that some students had worked on. There, it comes with a template, and you can, you know, add sticky notes as you need. I like that I can drag the canvas with the mouse. if I click over here on the side, I can have all these different sticky notes, and I can just pull them over to the board and just put them there. There's so much I can do here. And I can create my own templates, which is really, really nice. And then when I get into an activity, when I invite people, they can come in as anonymous users. And the anonymous users can work on the board. So I can have 40 people on this board at any one time, and I can facilitate a session with them. So you can see here, I can set a timer. I can do a voting session, so dot voting. There's so much that I can do on this board. I can have, I can have people make comments on what I've done. I just found this to be a really sophisticated tool at the low level. So it's just me, I'm paying $12 a month, but I know that there are large organizations that are using it, and they're doing all sorts of things all together. And so I'm pretty sure that my company will continue to use this. And as we grow more sophisticated, we'll be doing more and more together on this. So for one of my projects, I had a project planning board, and I just kind of organized all my thoughts, project goals, how will we measure success, and I just kind of, I can go back and refer to it at any time. I can export this and put it into a deck if I want to, and then I made my own kind of dot voting because I didn't want to just do it by myself, so I just kind of added stickers and made them smaller. So there's just so much I can do with Mural. I just am really impressed with this tool and what it's capable of. Every time I use it, I find more and more that I can do. I believe that that was all I was going to talk about in terms of definition. Do you guys have any questions for me about those three tools? Those are the main ones that I use in this phase. Nope.
Is that value proposition? Do you also do business model canvas?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. All the things. You got to be business minded as well as design minded. I'm all about that.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
definitely.
I don't see it often though.
Oh yeah. I'm a business owner, so you have to. You have to. And I think that designers that come with a business mindset, they bring so much more value to an organization. It's not just about pretty pictures. Yeah.
Question.
Sure.
I've been using Lucid Charts. What are your thoughts on that?
I've used a little bit of Lucid Charts. For me, it was one that I hadn't used because it just seemed bigger than I needed. And so that was really the only reason. I've had clients that have used it and they've let me into it, and it just seemed really big. And that's the only reason why, because I've heard lots of good things about it. Back in the day, I used a product called Glyphy for years for flowcharting, but it's just so buggy. I had to get rid of it. It was awful. And so my my company, with COVID, we just stopped spending money altogether, but I was going to look more into Lucid Charts. I was going to, we started using kind of draw.io as a intermediary. And then we also, I found Whimsical and I really like that. But I don't have a problem with Lucid Charts. I just haven't used it enough to be able to say one way or another.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah. Those are great questions. Are there any other questions before I hand it over to Amanda?
I had one more question if no one else is jumping in, but I already asked the question, so I was kind of.
No, please do.
So I guess, do you ever come across, this is something we came across, I think, in the agency that I was working at, where there's kind of a disconnect between the internal kind of using it to organize and external just creating artifacts that you can show a client, for instance. So, obviously part of that is that it has to have a certain, sheen to it, or like look presentable. But I think what I'm trying to say is there seems to be a tension between, being able to just facilitate really rapid ideation and kind of throwing ideas up there and arriving at something that you can show a client and say, okay, here's what we've done. Do you ever find that kind of tension? Do you have to redo sometimes what you have? Do you find that there's any tools within these services that help you, spruce it up, or can you talk to that?
Oh, that's a really good question. I would say that most of the time when we have something that is not, I always do things in person first, and until like March, like 15th, I was, like, and then it all stopped. Like I was starting with the Post-it notes, since we were doing rapid ideation, like on a whiteboard. And so exploring these tools with people outside of, like where your physical space is, that became a really interesting dynamic. So from the agency perspective, I haven't yet tested that like internal messiness. Although, but see, here's the thing, right? I don't mind showing clients messy. I really don't. And so as long as I set the expectation, like this is the work that we did, maybe we have two versions where like, we did this and we did this and we did this, and here's the final version for you. Sometimes they don't even see a lot of these like midway, like these almost like mini milestones. They might just see the big milestone where we sit down and talk to them about the problem that we're solving. Here's my like summary report of the user research. But sometimes they like to see the sausage being made, and I don't mind showing them the messy at all.
Sure.
I try to find
I
that
just
out early though.
Right.
Sorry, I just wanted to add that in some other environments, if you work with product managers, they also want to weigh in. And I found that sometimes having this kind of brainstorming sessions with the raw material like this is helpful, especially in like prioritization of features. You can have them help you work on those together. So sometimes you show it to them, and that could be beneficial as well.
I like
Yeah.
devs and these kind of things.
Yeah, exactly.
Seeing a developer's mind blown just because they've had like a concept visualized. Never seen this before. What is this? Greatest feeling in the world.
And the other thing I would really like to start moving into is doing, strategic type, and I don't mean like strategic, I mean like planning it out kind of workshops with a client and having those stakeholders be part of that conversation. That's what I would really like to experiment with, so that the stakeholders feel like they're part of the process. And I think being able to use these tools actually makes it a little bit more accessible for clients, so they don't have to drive to the office, or I don't have to fly to them in order to facilitate that. So I'd really like to experiment with using these tools. And I think that's one of the reasons why I chose Mural ultimately, is because it felt sophisticated enough, and it had the kind of templates to start with, that I can actually do that with clients and not feel like they'll judge me for it having like Comic Sans font or something like that, So it feels a little bit more refined, even at that messy stage.
Yeah, I mean, and those are great points. I think what we found in our experience was just when you're mapping out systems that are really extensive and amount to, like, say, a lot of screens or a lot of nodes, then you need to start worrying about organizing it if you're going to show it to the client. Otherwise, it starts to look really crazy, like you're like the Charlie Day gif, surrounded by kind of like lines and conspiracy theories.
Oh, absolutely. And I almost think that, that's where sketching comes in, and then you start putting it like into something that organized. But I think I like the tools for the fact that when you move around boxes, those connectors come with you. And so it makes it a little bit easier than trying to erase lines down the road. And it's certainly not going to simulate the whiteboard environment completely. But when you get that big, I mean, honestly, wouldn't you rather have like a huge long wall to put like, pieces of paper on and map that out too? So there's definitely downsides to the remote environment for sure. Are there any other questions?
I just want to add that we're doing workshops. I work on enterprise scale, and these tools have done really well. We're co-creating with our clients and mapping out messy things, and everyone's just so excited to have a visual discussion. It's really bringing everyone together.
That's
so it's
great.
really working out well.
It's awesome. All right. Well, with that, I'm going to stop sharing my screen and let Amanda talk about the ideation and prototyping.
Hey everyone, so I'm going to talk about ideation, prototyping, and then at the end of it, go into testing a bit. I'm going to share my screen. Give me one moment. Can everyone see my screen?
Yep.
So personally, I find that ideation and prototyping is most easily achieved using Adobe XD or Figma. And there are other tools like My Balsamic for really rapid, really rapid ideation. But I find that I actually save more time doing it in a tool like Figma or Adobe XD. And the reason is that I can create components when I am creating my mid-fidelity mockups. Like for instance, if I'm reusing this card in many different screens, I can create a component for it. And then when I make an iteration, I can just iterate on the master component and it goes ahead and makes that iteration throughout however many screens I'm working on. And I find that is also a great asset to have when you're moving into the high fidelity mockup phase. So I'd say Figma and Adobe XD and even Sketch are some of my really big tools for when I'm doing the ideation phase. I have found that My Balsamic is really helpful because it does kind of simulate sketching in a way where it's really rough and it's using Comic Sans and it's like really easy to, just test out the functionality between the interactions. But overall, I'd say that I prefer these tools a bit more. And I also like that Adobe XD and Figma allow you to prototype in their application. So you can use the prototyping tool and select the hotspot and drag it over to the next screen, and then on click or on drag or whichever type of interaction you want, you can have it navigate to the next screen. And they are getting pretty, they're getting pretty creative with the fact that you can make a lot of like micro interactions. You can do overlays that have like a modal pop up in a certain area. So it really helps you create a realistic prototype and ultimately, in my opinion, gives you a bit of better user research data. And then moving into the tools that I use for remote testing. So I've used usertesting.com before, and I find that it's really easy to use. You can send a user a website. You do pay to get user tests, but I feel that the data is worth it because you have a moderator that is it's not yourself, it's someone else who isn't involved, and you can give the moderator a list of questions and they lead the user through the screens and ask them to think out loud. And I think it's kind of the best way to simulate guerrilla testing in a remote scale. So I've found usertesting.com to be really helpful. There are also tools like maze.design, and it's a bit different. You can't get the screen recording that you get with user testing, but it's also really nice because you could share prototype links and get feedback that way. And I've also found that even just doing like a Zoom share screen with someone that I'm testing a product on has been really helpful because I can still see their facial expressions and see their screen and watch them interact with the prototype. So I found that, it's a bit more challenging to do it remote, but there are tools to kind of alleviate some of those barriers from being remote.
Can I just jump in and talk about Figma? We started using Figma last fall, and I finally learned how to use it in January. And I love the fact that, Amanda and I could be working on the same project at the same time. And that allows us to kind of, that to me is true remote work and collaboration, is being able to be in that at the same time and be able to make changes together, which not every wireframing tool will allow you to do that. The other thing I like is that we can send a link to a client, and then they can provide comments right there in the wireframe super easily. That has been very handy. We've had at least one, if not more, clients do that through Figma, and they have not had any issues with it. And that's so much easier than trying to send Photoshop, PDFs, and have them comment up and down them, and have it misinterpreted. We've had like literally comment like back and forth in the document, and then we're able to make changes like right there while they're looking at it, which has been great. So for us, we haven't used XD for that scale, so I can't really comment, but I'd let Andrina talk about that since she uses XD more than we do. But on the Figma side, it has been golden, and I'm kind of kicking myself that we didn't make the switch sooner.
Yeah, so as Cindy was saying, there's an ability to comment on different areas in the Figma file by selecting this comment section here. So, I literally can like call out at the client, say, hey, I love this idea, whatever I want to say, post it. And then we have an ongoing conversation here. And like Cindy said, I mean, it's been great for collaborating directly with the client. Like personally, in my professional experience, I have like gone back and forth with the client, iterating on a wireframe. And it's kind of a great time saver as well, because you can be iterating with a client remotely or with other members of your team while you're also, it's not taking up, the 30-45 minutes that it would require to have a video call. So it's really great in that sense. And you can have more than, I've seen 15 people in this space iterating at the same time. So it's real time collaboration. And I just find that, especially at times like these, that's really helpful.
When I was super excited, because we work with other agencies, and those agencies will deliver files, and they had been sending us PSDs, which takes so much time. And I just found out that their sketch files we can just import into Figma, and then boom, we've got all their layered designs, and that's going to save us so much time. With exporting assets and seeing what the design is that we have to build. So gosh, it's rocking my world so much that the other agencies that I'm talking to, I'm like, are you using Figma yet? Are you using XD yet? Are you using Sketch? Please tell me you are, so that, because it's just going to save us so much time. Do you guys have any questions about any of those?
Yeah, I do, Dina. So I have been using Axure, and it looks like it's very similar to Balsamic and Figma. What's your opinion on it? And are those the one you are recommending are more powerful than that, or?
So I honestly cannot give you an opinion on Axure just because I haven't used it. I have seen it a little bit, and there's more people talking about it. When I'm typically talking with other companies, they're using Sketch. A lot of people are starting to move to Figma or XD. And so, so that to be said, I encourage you to explore. We just are using Figma just because it happened to be something that more and more people are talking about, and it seems to work with so many different other tools that it was just kind of working for us. And for us, the barrier to entry was low, and that's why.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, Axure, I found it to be a very, very powerful tool. So I just wanted to see what is being used, or like what's more popular in this field, and just trying to see if I should go, because I also started looking into Adobe XD if I should want to do that switch. And so I'm kind of like trying to figure out where to go, what to do about it.
Yeah. So I think it's great to explore. I will say that most of the time when people are talking about these tools, they're talking about XD, Sketch, and Figma. It's almost like the big three. That being said, I mean, just because it's not one of the big three doesn't mean it's not a good tool to use. Yeah. And every company is going to be different. I mean,
Right.
literally. And there's a lot of companies that are using Sketch that would love to make the switch to a different tool, but aren't because of just the logistics, and they could lose a lot if they tried to, and it could cost them a lot of money because they have so much in Sketch and to make that shift. So there's a lot of companies that are, I wouldn't say locked into Sketch, but I mean, lock-in with software is a real thing. So they may not be moving in this direction unless they're forced to, or unless they, there's an opening and they can try something new. So I think it might be worth, if you're looking at a particular, company or set of companies, just maybe you can get some intel into what the tools are that they're using, and that might help you make your decision in terms of like what to learn. Because I know that on the agency side, there's still a lot of agencies using Photoshop. I mean, it's just the way it is. And I know a lot of people that started when I did still love Balsamic. So I think it really depends on where you want to work.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a great question. Any other questions?
I don't have a question, but just a quick comment to add to what you said, which is that I think what's really helped me has been whenever you're using software where they allow a thriving community to write plugins and stuff for it, makes a big difference. And so some of these tend to be very in-house and only have incremental updates, whereas some of these prototyping services are just running away with like adding stuff and allowing the community to sort of add stuff. So I think that's a big factor for me personally. That was my like 2 cents.
That's a really good point. I totally agree. And when you can see that like lots of people are using it, lots of people are contributing, it does mean a lot. And I can think of it in terms of software. Trying to think of all the different like what softwares I've used where there have been extensions, but that's the ones that I tend to gravitate towards because more people are using it. Definitely.
Yeah,
All
and I
right.
can speak to that a bit. So like Adobe XD and Figma have different plugins that you can add into your application, and they're just huge time savers. Like you can have like iconography libraries just at the point of going into the menu and selecting a plugin menu or a spell checker or any types of different plugins. So it really helps speed up the workflow and when people are able to go in and make contributions like that.
Any other questions? Did we miss anything though? You guys are coming from a wide variety of backgrounds. What tools have you guys used that you have found valuable?
I think a lot of the tools are, so this is a little bit of a side tool, and it's not super commonly used, but if you're looking for high fidelity prototyping and like more robust animation, like if you've got like a weird interaction that you're not sure if it's going to test well with users, Envision Studio works very similar to a lot of the software. And the tools, the animation tools are very easy to use, but you can really go in with you can go deep in the timeline and actually organize that. So that I really enjoy some of that functionality there. I've yet to see any of them really compare with that, which is hopefully it'll get there. But yeah, that's something to check out if you're interested.
I'm definitely interested in that because I've been using just Envision itself for the just the standard clickable prototype, and I've never gone beyond that. Yeah.
I hate standard Envision, but Envision Studio has been super, super valuable, especially for like complex transitions that I needed to make sure that the user understood what was going on because of it. Very, very experimental kind of animations and whatnot that are still interactable and I can throw on a phone and then watch them use it.
That's awesome. Does anybody else have any suggestions for tools?
I was also going to say Envision Freehand for live sketching collaboration.
Oh, we did bring that up. Andrina and I were talking about that. Yeah. Did you want to add to that, Andrina?
Well, I basically have used it for, not for prototyping, mostly for collaboration and brainstorming and kind of bringing in ideas with the stakeholders and developers. I don't know, I'm sure many of you have seen that comic where this is how the user story is worded, and this is what the designer thought it meant, this is what the developer thought it meant, this is what the stakeholder thought it meant, and they all have a different idea of what it was. So being able to jump on Envision Freehand allows you to kind of, okay, this is what I was talking about, this is what I meant, and then it kind of becomes clear once you have a visual, and Freehand is a very good tool for doing that.
Awesome.
Can I ask a question to anyone who is a UX developer, or I know that we had a couple of developers or development facing kind of people. What tool do you feel is the best for handoff in your experience? Like what plays best with developers' needs? Because that's a perennial thing that I'm always curious about.
I can speak a little bit to this since I deal with developers on a daily basis. And also I do some development myself. Like they shoved me on React due to a very, very quick deadline that we had to turn around. So Webflow has actually been a really dope tool. And I mean, it's a website builder, but it bakes out in very, very, so in the case of like, if you're passing off for like web, it bakes out in very, very clean code that they can just kind of inspect. But even if you're not, right? So you can do responsive prototyping in it because it's got animation tools, all that kind of stuff. It's very clean, very efficient. Like you can get that thing to the high 90s in page speed, which is great because it's not going to freeze on you when you're trying to do user testing or experimenting with it. I've honestly thought about just straight up moving to that rather than using like other prototyping tools for certain things, but it allows them to really kind of get a feel of it. And a lot of those elements, when they inspect it, translate over in their own way to different languages. So they can at least see like the padding and the font sizes and stuff like that. It just makes a little bit more logical sense to a lot of them.
Cool. Yeah, I like Webflow. I use it too. So I love it.
Right on, right on.
We looked at Webflow and we hadn't didn't get a chance to dive into it very deep. And we're supposed to be teaching it in the classes, but that comes much later. I will say that, as a company that we have developers, I know that what's worked in the past definitely wasn't Photoshop. We tried using, I've heard people talk about Zeppelin, that's a handoff that they use. We didn't try it. I think I have a sister-in-law in New York at an agency and they use Zeppelin all the time. We tried a tool called Avocode, which hooks into Figma, but we didn't find that it added any value. And it was an extra cost on top of it. And anytime we made an iteration, those iterations didn't come over. Like we had to, I believe it was republish it every time. And all the notes were lost in between what we sent from Figma to Avocode. And it just became not even useful. And so now we just have our developers on Figma. And they just told us it was just a lot easier just to look in Figma and not have to have a tool that would send anything over. So, but I would love to try Webflow at some time and see how that works, because that's sometimes prototyping, I want to see all those cool animations and see all the good stuff, that's the golden stuff. All good comments. Do we have any other questions before we start our activity?
Can I tell a couple words?
Absolutely.
I'm gonna send the link, and it has different tools, so you can check. There's the for design, for prototyping, for handoff, maybe you know already, but it's really helpful in order maybe to find a new tool.
Thank you. Oh, this is great. Awesome. Awesome. Thanks, Julia. All right, anybody else? All right, how do you guys want to practice? We have a planned demo, 10 minutes each. Are y'all down with it? I'm gonna do a mural activity. Amanda's going to do a Figma activity, and Andrina's going to do a Mural activity. And I was going to break everybody like evenly into breakout rooms, and we'll try this. Y'all down with this? Thumbs up.
Cool.
All right, cool. All right, let me create some breakout rooms. I will recreate.
I have added the link for the Miro on the chat. For those who don't have an account, you guys need to create it real quick to be able to participate.
All right. All right, I am gonna, I think the way that we're gonna have to do this is make it 30 minutes, and we'll, Andrina and Amanda and I will hop around. That way you guys don't have to worry about doing this, all right? All right, I'm gonna open all the rooms, make sure that I get everybody in a different room. All right. I'm going to 2, guys. I'm going to 2. Hello, hello. Okay, you guys are stuck with me. Sorry.
Oh, darn.
Sorry.
Aww.
All right. You got the short end of the stick here.
No.
We're gonna do a mural activity. I'm gonna post a link in chat. You want to join this link anonymously. I'm also gonna share my screen. So just in case. Let's see. Where's the share? Where's the share? There we go. All right, so this is I'm just going to do a quick activity here. We're just going to kind of get a feel for Mural for those of you, maybe you've done it before, and we're going to practice. So I'm going to have you guys brainstorm first. We'll start with pretending that you're redesigning LinkedIn. I figured everybody here has probably been LinkedIn. So let's spend, I'm going to time you guys. Let's spend 1 minute putting as many ideas into the I like this about LinkedIn as possible. And then in the next minute, we'll move down to I wish. So just what you'll do is you'll double click on a post-it, and then you'll start like adding stuff.
I'll join you in a second. I'm installing the app.
Oh,
on
you
my
don't.
iPad.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
No worries. No worries.
That's totally fine. So sorry about that.
It's okay. We have to be dynamic these days.
Yeah.
So you can see I set a timer at the top, which is kind of nice. It kind of keeps things on track. Nice. And it's kind of fun seeing like all the different animals. Anonymous squid. All right, so time is up. So let's go ahead and move on down to the I wish portion of the board. I'm going to set the timer again for a minute, and then tell me what, like, let's practice putting in things of like what you wish LinkedIn would do. All right, about 15 seconds left. All right, and then the last set of stickies, we'll do the what if. Let's pretend what if we could do something with LinkedIn. Great. All right, awesome. So you can see it gives little times up, which is kind of cool. So now focusing on those sticky notes, you're going to go to the center part of the board. And the first thing I want you to do is kind of group, focusing on the I wish and what if. You start picking up those stickies and moving them over to part 2. And then kind of group similar ideas together. And I'm going to give you a minute to do that. Again, we're doing such a quick taste of this tool, but I find that doing activities is a lot easier than, you know, just kind of looking at a tool. You can't really tell like how it is unless you actually work with it.
I'm using Miro, and it's
Right. All right, so time's up. So now what we're gonna do is I'm gonna let you guys dot vote. And you can set this up in a lot of different ways. So I'm gonna set a voting session. And what I'm gonna do is I want you to vote on the most feasible ideas. You can set how many votes you want per person. So I'm gonna give you guys 3, and I can set it to any member of the mural. And then you can see it'll start the voting session.
I think that feature alone was the reason why I chose Mural over Miro.
Yeah, this is amazing.
So good.
And then what you do is you just start clicking on what your vote is. So like I have 3 votes, so I might go in and take a look at them and say, oh, I like this one. I'm gonna use that as one of my votes. Ooh, better opportunity matching, that's good. And then I have 1 more vote left. Ooh, I like that one too. So now I have 0 votes left. And let me see. So once we get a little bit farther in, I'll let you guys all use your votes up as much as possible. And then we'll move on to the next. Yeah, I think you're right, Brian. This is one of the biggest things. I was like, oh, well, I could do all kinds of stuff with this board now.
Oh yeah, I've run brand design. I've run like probably about 10 design sprints at this point, just different features and stuff with multiple people. Even live sometimes, if I don't feel like using sticky notes, just have a bunch of people sit around their laptops in the same room.
Yeah, I mean, it's an easy way to capture it. It takes a little bit of prep. I mean, you can't just walk in with a bunch of sticky notes and Sharpies, you know, but I mean, hopefully you're prepping for that stuff anyway. I'm going to give you guys about 40 more seconds, unless
It's
you're...
not something I haven't done, but not necessarily advisable.
Right? Sometimes we do what we got to do.
Got 2 hours to figure out a feature? All right, well, we're doing it.
That's right. That's right. All right. Okay. And the cool thing is that you can vote and you can take your vote away too. That's what's really nice. So you can click on it again, pull it back, and you can do as many votes as you want. All right, so we're going to stop the voting and the voting session, and then I can show the ideas. Then everybody can see how many votes everything got, which is really nice. So finally, and I set up this board kind of custom. You can use templates there, and you can create your own. So what we'll do now is just take like a couple minutes to just practice prioritizing it. All right, so start pulling over those most voted ideas, the ones with all the red, and just kind of put it somewhere in this feature prioritization matrix. And I'll give you guys a minute or so to work on that.
The votes disappear when you start moving them?
They might. I haven't used it enough to be able to say.
I haven't. I can still see them on mine.
I'm also using it on an iPad. It might be buggier. Mhm.
Okay, so this priority and impact. Okay,
So I usually think of priority as like a priority for the business and then the impact for the user.
okay.
Like how high an impact would it have on the user?
Okay, I'm used to more the effort impact. Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah.
When you lock that board down or that grid, or is it just me that it keeps
I
moving?
think I can lock it. Yeah, I can actually lock. Where do I lock that?
Had a lot of unruly people in my sessions.
I think it's locked now.
Yeah, so this is I think this is a really powerful tool, and for all, I would probably use this for everything, honestly, except for wire flows and user flows and stuff like that, although you could, definitely could. I was just messaging the other organizers to see if they're ready to switch.
It's like speed dating or something.
Right? They're not answering me, so you're stuck with me for a little bit.
What do you like better for user flows?
I had been using draw.io, but I don't like it. I just feel like it's too clunky. And I had used Glyphy for a really long time, and that one really ticked me off because I was creating a really massive sitemap and I could never export it. It was so big, the software kept breaking. And I was like, no, I can't do this. So I got rid of that, and recently I discovered Whimsical. And I think I'm going to really like Whimsical for user flows and even for site mapping, just because it's just clean, it's just smoother. It's just so much smoother for working with and making those connectors and stuff. And like I mentioned, I've never worked with Lucid Charts, and it's just a little bit bigger than what we need. But I've heard good things about it. Lots of people use that tool.
It's pretty good. My PM uses that. He'll sometimes come up with stuff, but I mean, we have used Mural as far as we'll just throw post-it notes up and.
I was going to say Miro. I bet Mural does too. There's templates with diagrams, and the arrows flow dynamically between the shapes and things.
It definitely has like pre-built templates, and you can make, the nice thing I like about Mural is you can make your own templates. So if it doesn't have one already built, you can create your own, and then you can just reuse it over and over again, which is really nice. And in terms of the connectors, I haven't used it for connecting between boxes, but it does have like lines and arrows and stuff. So it's pretty nice. It's pretty nice. So nobody's answering me. So
they're having a lot of fun.
They're having a lot of fun. We're going to come back, and you'll be the only ones who've seen Mural. I'm going to guess that they needed more than 15 minutes to do Figma. If you guys want to see, have you guys worked with Figma? Are you interested in me showing you Figma?
I like it.
It's,
Figma?
I mean, I moved over to it probably about a year and some change ago.
Mm-hmm.
It just, I mean, it had a lot more, it was just easier to share stuff. And then Sketch was kind of lagging behind as far as some of the functionality, like the component libraries and things like that. Figma did that a hell of a lot better, a lot earlier. Now Sketch's stuff is a hell of a lot better now too, but it just, Figma is just easy to share. Like passing that off to a client is easy peasy.
It is so great. And like, I don't use a Mac. We're a PC shop. And so I couldn't use Sketch. I would have used Sketch, could I have, but I didn't want to invest in it when we don't have, like, you know, I'd have to buy a special computer for that. And nobody else in our shop would have used it. And so I didn't realize how easy Figma was going to be. And so that became a thing where we could use, like, Amanda works with me. She uses a Mac, I use a PC, and we're able to work in the same thing, which is great. And I hate to say this, you guys didn't hear it from me because we're sponsored by XD, but when my students used XD, they had so much trouble. And I used it a little bit and I found it hard to use, although I will say it is nice to be able to move Illustrator, you know, things into XD that quickly. But for me, the burden for learning was just too high. And Figma was a lot easier.
It's just it. So we had an event that was hosted by XD. It was like it was almost like a mini hackathon. It was like but it was design oriented. And so we had some Adobe reps come in, and they hosted the whole thing. They rented out the space, and then after the event, because we were forced to use XD, at least like in my division of the competition, and then it was just a giant shrug. I still think it's a giant shrug of a software. But we were out for drinks, and one of the ladies comes up and asks, "So what do you think of Adobe?" And I looked her straight in the face, and I'm just like, "It is mediocre as hell. It needs a lot of work." And she was like taken aghast, and the other rep comes up, No, we like the honest feedback. I was a few drinks in. But
yeah, you're more
still that way. It's just a shrug of software. I don't know. I think Adobe is just kind of you have a lot of professionals moving away from Adobe altogether.
Yeah. Well, it looks like Andrina's ready to switch with me. So I'm going to leave, but you guys stay real quick. Let me see if I can figure out how to get out of the breakout room just a second. All right. All right. Andrina's on her way.
Super easy.
I'm here. I'm sorry. All right. You're supposed to go to number one. Number one.
Oh, number one?
Yeah.
Okay, let me
room one.
check. All right. Thank you, guys. Let me know if you have any questions about it. And again, I'm going to leave it open for you, okay? See you later.
Yeah, now you're stuck with me. Sorry. My apologies. How are y'all doing?
Good.
Cool. We have just a few minutes to try out Mural. I'm going to give you guys an anonymous link. And so just enter anonymously. I'm going to put it in the chat. And you guys, I didn't have a chance to make a second room, so you'll already see some post-it notes taken, but I don't think that's going to matter for what we're going to do. We're just going to kind of get a feel for for this, we're going to do an I like, I wish, what if activity, pretending that we're redesigning or adding an enhancement to LinkedIn. And so I'm going to show you, we're going to use Mural to do that. So if you go over to the blue Post-it notes, if you double click, you'll be able to take it and lock a note and start typing in it. So I'm going to time you and give you 1 minute to put as many ideas into the I like portion of what you like about LinkedIn. And you can, if you have a scroller wheel, you can kind of zoom into the board, get as close as you need to. And then when you double click on it, you kind of lock it, and then you can start typing. All right, 30 seconds left. All right. Cool. All right, so time's up. You can see the little time's up thing comes up. So now we're going to go down to the I wish. And I'm going to give you a minute to put what you wish LinkedIn had. The nice thing is that you can set however much you want time you want with the timer, which makes it really flexible. And then when the 1 minute warning comes up, you can actually add extra time if you need it. All right, time's up. And finally, what if? What would be nice that you could come up with for LinkedIn down at the green Post-its? Got about 10 seconds left. All right. I want you guys to take a minute to pull over those Post-its that have writing on them and start grouping them under part 2, where it says group/vote. So start pulling over those Post-its and getting them over there so that we can see them all together. And don't forget about your I wish and what if ones as well. Nice. We may not have any, we don't have a lot of people, like a lot of ideas, but if you had a whole bunch, you'd be able to put them all together and come up with things. And obviously if we had more time. we would spend probably more than just a minute on this. Now here's where I think Mural really sets itself apart as different from Miro, and that's the voting. So I can set a new voting session. And am I sharing my screen? I'm not even sharing my screen. Sorry, guys. Let me share my screen so you can see. Here's my screen, and so as a facilitator, I can set a voting session, and I can start a voting session, and I can say, what are we voting on? So maybe we're doing most feasible idea. And maybe I want to give everybody, 3 votes. And then who can end? I can say just me or any member of the session can end the vote. So I'm going to go ahead and hit next and get the voting going. And then I'm going to go ahead and set a timer and give you guys probably a minute to go ahead. And what you'll see is that you have votes now. And you can go in, I'm going to get, oh, well, we don't have a lot of time, but you can go in and you can click on one and say, oh, I like this one. I'm going to click on that and there's my vote. I've just used my vote. Let's see, LinkedIn separated its services. Maybe I want to vote on that. And I can come up and I can click on any of these and use my votes. And I get 3, and I can take one away though. If I don't like this one, I can take it away. I can click on it and I can remove my vote and I can move it on to something else. So they're not set in stone. Make sense? So give that a try. Cool. Let's take about 30 more seconds to finish voting. Okay, cool. I'm going to go ahead and close the voting session. So all I have to do is hit this button again and I can end voting session. And I can end it for everyone. And then I can show the results. So you can see that the voting results come up. And you can see in the last session, like maybe you can do this multiple times. You can see what happened in the previous session. It shows me the most recent one and I can see what's different, which is a really cool feature. So it keeps track of it. So then to finish things out, you can see how the previous group started prioritizing some of the ideas they came up with. So let's go ahead and take just maybe 2 minutes to start moving the Post-it notes that have votes that you guys voted on, start moving that over to the feature prioritization matrix and ranking by priority and impact. So priority for the business and impact for the users. This is a great way to organize ideas and plan sessions. So a little less than 30 seconds left. Oh, and we're about to get kicked out of the breakout room anyway. While you guys are working, what do you guys think? You had a chance to work with Miro and now Mural. How does it feel? Which one do you like better? And you're back. So what did you like better, Kareem?
Personally, I like Mural better. I had never really tried it out before, so thank you for providing that opportunity.
Which one, Miro or Mural? Which one?
I
Miro?
know they're kind of similar. The Mural,
Mural?
the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think the voting is really powerful. That's what Brian and I were talking about in the first group, is that the voting is just so powerful with that tool. It's just really nice.
I like how they direct, like you're encouraged to reach conclusions through it, as opposed to just ideating. There's nothing wrong with an app that just lets you, or a service that just lets you generate ideas, but I do like when they kind of try to follow through on that.
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
Hey,
Well,
I think we were only able to go through 2 groups, right?
yeah, I don't think we had time for that, but it's already 8:30 and I know a lot of people dropped off because, you know, they had other things. So I don't want to force you guys into like a super long evening, but if you guys have any questions, feel free to reach out, join the Slack group. The link is in the meetup group. So if you click more, it's actually the join link is right there. So join us on Slack. We'll start a conversation. Reach out to me on LinkedIn. I'm happy to connect just as long as I know that I met you. And yeah, I am so glad you guys made it tonight. And in June, we have our next meetup up. It's just that we're finalizing who's going to be there. But this one, we're going to talk about careers again and how to future forward your UX career. I'm super excited because one of the people that we've confirmed, and I hope it doesn't change, is William Needham. He is a principal designer at the Home Depot and has done so much. He's got a book coming out about defending design. He's fascinating. And we're probably going to have a couple other panelists as well. Super excited about that. So look forward to seeing you then. There'll be a portfolio review as well. So check the meetup group for our events. Okay. All right. I'll stay for
Thank you.
questions. Y'all have a
Thank you.
great night. And don't forget to take that survey.
Yes, and the Facebook group. We're gonna post the video there as well. So
Definitely.
in case you want to share with others, you know, we're gonna post it there.
Yeah, I'm gonna go ahead and stop the recording.